He refused to pay child support for 6 years. Then I inherited my grandfather's secret fortune. For 6 years, Marcus sent me the same text on the first of every month. It said, "Can't do it this month. Things are tight." 6 years. 72 months. 72 versions of the same excuse, each one slightly rephrased, as if changing the wording made it a different answer. Meanwhile, I raised our daughter Lily on a teacher's salary, a second-hand sofa, and the particular exhaustion of being the only person in a two-person job. And then my grandfather died, and everything changed. Not just for me, for Marcus most of all. Before I go further, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Drop your location in the comments. I love knowing where you all are. I'm Simone. I'm 36 years old, and this is the story of how 6 years of being told no became the foundation for the most satisfying yes of my life. Marcus and the beginning. I met Marcus at 24. I was finishing my teaching credential. He was working in sales, charming in the way that men in sales are charming, attentive until the deal is done, then managing the relationship from a comfortable distance. I didn't see that clearly at 24. I saw someone who made me laugh and who showed up with flowers sometimes, and who seemed, in the early months, genuinely interested in building something. Lily was not planned. I want to be honest about that. She was the result of a relationship that was already showing cracks, and a conversation we'd been avoiding, and two people who were not yet brave enough to have it. When I told Marcus, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Okay, we'll figure it out." We did not figure it out. 6 months into the pregnancy, he moved into a place with a coworker for financial reasons that, in retrospect, were never fully explained. Split when Lily was 8 months old. The split when Lily was 8 months old. The custody arrangement was informal at first. His idea. He said lawyers made things adversarial. He said he would do his part voluntarily. He said he loved Lily and would always show up for her. The showing up lasted about 14 months. 6 years of the first of the month, I went back to teaching when Lily was 11 months old. Full-time, 5th grade, the age group that is simultaneously the most exhausting and the most rewarding, and the one I'd chosen before Lily existed and would choose again. Marcus's contributions were irregular from the start. Something always came up. A car repair, a gap between jobs, a medical bill. He had a talent for producing reasons that were just plausible enough to require a moment's consideration before they collapsed. I filed for a formal support order when Lily was 2. The court set the amount. Marcus paid it twice, then reverted to the texts. "Can't do it this month. Things are tight." I took him back to court at year 3. He showed up with documentation of reduced income. He'd restructured his sales arrangement to show lower earnings on paper, something my attorney noted, but which was difficult to prove without a forensic audit I couldn't afford at the time. The judge adjusted the amount downward. Marcus sent me a text that evening that said, "I think we can work together on this." I did not respond. Year 4, year 5. Lily started school. She had her father's eyes, and my stubbornness, and a laugh that arrived without warning and filled whatever room it was in. She asked about Marcus sometimes, the way children ask about things they're trying to categorize, not with grief, with curiosity. I answered honestly at the level she could hold. He existed in her life the way clouds exist, occasional, overhead, not something you could depend on for particular weather. At year 6, I had $847 in savings. I had a good job, a stable apartment, a daughter who was thriving in the particular way that children thrive when one parent refuses to let the circumstances be the ceiling. I had built something real out of nothing, and it had cost me everything I had. The call from the attorney. My grandfather Arthur died on a Wednesday in March. He was 81. He had lived alone on a property outside the city for the last 15 years after my grandmother passed, and he had been quietly, stubbornly, magnificently himself until the end. I had been close to him in a way that is difficult to explain quickly. He was the person who had shown up at my hospital when Lily was born, the first one through the door, before my own mother, carrying gas station flowers and a handwritten card that said, "You are going to be remarkable at this." I had assumed his estate was modest. The property, some savings, the truck he'd been driving since 2003. He had never spoken about money in terms that suggested abundance. He had lived simply, cooked his own food, worn the same 3 flannels for as long as I could remember. The attorney's name was Gerald Hoyt. He called me 2 weeks after the funeral. He said, "Your grandfather left everything to you. I want to walk you through what that means before I send the documents." The property had been appraised recently. Arthur had purchased it in 1987 for a sum that now seemed impossible. The land alone was worth considerably more than I had made in the last 10 years combined. There were also investments. Managed quietly for 30 years by a financial advisor Arthur had trusted completely and spoken about never. A number Gerald read to me over the phone that I made him repeat twice. I sat down on the kitchen floor. Lily was at school. The apartment was completely quiet. I said, "Gerald, can you say that number one more time?" He said it again. I sat there for a while. Then I called my attorney. Audience question. I need to pause here, because I know what some of you are thinking, that I should have just moved on, taken the money, let Marcus be irrelevant. And part of me considered that. But 6 years is a long time. Lily is a real person whose father made a choice every single month. What would you have done? Tell me in the comments. The forensic audit. My attorney's name was Claire Beaumont. I had used her for the original support order and both modifications. She was precise, patient, and had a way of explaining legal strategy that made it feel like architecture. Here is the structure. Here is why each piece is load-bearing. I told Claire about the inheritance. She was quiet for a moment and then said, "This changes your position significantly. Do you want to pursue the arrears?" 6 years of inconsistent payment, court-ordered amounts unpaid, documentation of every missed month in my phone, every text from Marcus time-stamped and saved. I said, "I want to know what he actually earns, what he's actually been earning." Claire said, "Then we get the forensic accountant." His name was Dale Finch. He was methodical and thorough and had the specific energy of someone who genuinely enjoys finding discrepancies. He spent 3 weeks on Marcus's financial records. What he found was not complicated. It was just hidden. Marcus had been restructuring his commission income through a secondary LLC for 4 years. The LLC held assets, paid his personal expenses as business costs, and showed a clean income on paper that was approximately 40% of his actual earnings. Dale's report was 42 pages. Claire called it a gift. We filed for full arrears recalculation based on actual income, plus interest, plus the cost of the forensic audit. The number attached to the filing was significantly larger than anything Marcus had ever seen from me. His attorney called Claire within 24 hours. The confrontation, Marcus requested a meeting. In person, no attorneys, just the 2 of us. Claire said, "If you want to go, I go with you." We met at Claire's office. Marcus arrived 5 minutes late, which was characteristic. He looked at Claire, then at me, then at the folder on the table between us. He said, "Simone, I think we can resolve this between us. We don't need to make this into something bigger than it is." I said, "It's already as big as it is, Marcus. It didn't get bigger. We just started measuring it correctly." He shifted, looked at Claire, tried a different approach. He said, "I know I wasn't perfect, but I was always there for Lily." I thought about the 72 texts, the 14 months of showing up followed by 4.5 years of managed absence, the school play where Lily had looked at the audience for him and found an empty seat. I said, "The support order isn't about being there, Marcus. It's about the money. That's all this is." Claire opened the folder. Dale's report, the LLC documentation, the actual income figures for 4 years, the arrears calculation. Marcus looked at the pages for a long time. His attorney, who had arrived 5 minutes after him, placed a hand on his arm. The negotiation took 4 hours. Marcus paid the arrears in full, not because he wanted to, but because Dale's report left him no architecture to hide behind. He agreed to a new support order based on verified income, with quarterly financial disclosure requirements. He said, as we were leaving, "I suppose you're comfortable now." He meant the inheritance. He had heard somehow, the way people in small orbits always hear. I said, "I was always comfortable, Marcus. Comfortable doesn't require much when you're not waiting on someone else to provide it." I walked out into the afternoon and called my mother. The twist. 3 weeks after the settlement, Lily came home from her father's. She had started occasional weekends with him, his renewed effort at presence, and she sat at the kitchen table and was quiet in the way she gets when she is processing something. I said, "How was Dad's?" She said, "He has a girlfriend. She has a little boy. He's 3. I said, "How do you feel about that?" She said, "She seemed nice." The little boy kept following me around. He said I was his big sister. She looked at me with the careful eyes of a child who has learned to read adult reactions. She said, "Is that okay?" I said, "What you feel about it is what matters, not what I think." She said, "I think I like having a little brother, even a sort of one." I thought about the 3-year-old boy with Marcus's features who had called my daughter his big sister. I thought about whether Marcus was sending that child's mother the same text on the 1st of every month. I made a note to have Claire check. Some patterns don't change on their own. They change when the cost of continuing becomes visible. I intended to keep that cost very visible. Aftermath, I bought a house. Not an extravagant one. A 3-bedroom on a street with old trees and neighbors who wave. Lily has her own room for the first time, painted the exact color she chose, which is a green that I would not have selected, but which is completely correct for her. I still teach. I will probably always teach. The money changed what was possible, not who I am. My grandfather's card is framed in my kitchen. "You are going to be remarkable at this." I look at it on the days when remarkable feels distant. Lily is 8 now. She is exactly who she was going to be regardless. The stubbornness, the laugh, the way she fills a room without announcing it. None of that came from the money or the settlement or anything I fought for in a law office. That part was always hers. Here is what I want to say to anyone who is in year 2 or year 4 of the version of this that is theirs. Document everything. Save the text. Note the dates. Not because you are building a case, maybe you never will, but because the record of what actually happened is yours, and it belongs to you. And someday it may matter. The 1st of the month used to be the worst day. The day I looked at my phone and already knew what I was going to see. Now it's just Tuesday or Thursday, or whatever day it falls on. A regular day, a day I don't wait for anyone. I'm Simone, I'm 36, and Lily just asked if we can get a dog. I said yes. If this story hit something real for you, leave a comment. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. See you there.